Good morning. I'm Tom Gill, Director of Government Relations for the Georgia Municipal Association. Welcome to our statewide virtual listening session. Wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened on major legislation during this past legislative session, and then move to the listening session component of this process. But first, I want to make sure that we introduce a couple of members of our legislative team, Justin Kernan and Catherine Fleming. The other members of the legislative team who couldn't be with us today are Michael McPherson and Marcia Rubinson. First, we want to kick it off by talking about a few bills, key bills that we dealt with this past legislative session. And one that we get a lot of phone calls about and have many municipal officials have expressed concern about is ethics. And Catherine's going to talk a little bit about the ethics bill that passed and was sent to the governor this session.
Thanks, Tom. As many of y'all know, this has been a big initiative for GMA. We've been working on it every session that I've been at the Capitol, and we were victorious this year. So between that period of 2010 to 2014, a number of municipal officials received fines from the Ethics Commission for a failure to file. However, during that time period when you were required to file online, oftentimes our members had trouble accessing the system and not being able to get in, and a state auditor's report even came out saying that the system that we were being required to use was terrible. But regardless, the Ethics Commission started handing out fines to many municipal officials. So we got a bill passed that says that the Ethics Commission can waive these fines that were imposed during this time frame from January 1st, 2010 through January 10th, 2014, if the candidate files a campaign disclosure, a consolidated report of the information that was required in all of those other reports that the fines were issued for. So you'll have a chance to get a waiver if you file a consolidated report and it is deemed sufficient by the Ethics Commission. Now, don't hang up on this webinar and go to the Ethics Commission website looking for this consolidated report. It hasn't been issued yet by the Ethics Commission, but they will do so soon, hopefully, and be on the lookout for more information from GMA when that comes out.
Yeah, that was a real victory, and we're happy to have that process underway. And hopefully those of you who've been wrongly and unfairly caught by this dysfunctional ethics commission process at the state level will have some ability to clear your names. I want to talk briefly about a tax bill, House Bill 960. It deals with two components: sales tax refunds for overpayments and property taxes. House Bill 960 essentially reduces the interest rates that local governments have to pay when a business overpays their sales tax. Currently, if a business overpays their sales tax, the local governments are responsible for repaying that business what they paid plus 12% per year interest. House Bill 960 reduces that interest rate to approximately 6%. It's 3% plus the prime rate, which in today's prime rate, it's about 6%. So it essentially cuts in half the liability for local governments to repay businesses when an overpayment occurs. It'll be a nice cushion for local governments that doesn't exist now. Also, the bill deals with property taxes. When a city is using and working with a tax commissioner to collect the city property taxes, House Bill 960 will allow for the penalties collected for late payment of property taxes to be sent to the city. Current law lets those penalties go directly to the county treasury if the tax commissioner is handling the tax collection for the city. We made the case that that was not a fair way to treat penalties on unpaid property taxes, and we won that argument at the General Assembly. And so should the governor sign House Bill 960, moving forward, any penalties that are due for unpaid city taxes will not go to the county treasury, but will go to the city coffers. Next, I want to call on Justin to talk a little bit about a couple of public safety bills, particularly one that has turned out to be an explosive issue, but I think we've diffused the issue somewhat. Justin.
Thanks, Tom. It's somewhat diffused, and like Tom mentioned, this was an explosive issue all the way down until the last minute at the General Assembly this year. And we're going to talk about House Bill 727, which is the fireworks bill. This bill was a cleanup bill to last year's fireworks bill that made it legal for you to detonate and sell fireworks here in the state of Georgia. Now, last year, after the July 4th holiday, We received several phone calls and emails saying that people were using fireworks till all times of the night, even after the holiday. On a random Tuesday, people were detonating fireworks until midnight, and that was legal in the law. And a lot of you had some concerns with that, so we addressed a lot of those issues in this bill. Right now, the current bill, House Bill 727, allows for the use of fireworks any day of the week between 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. Anytime after 9 p.m., you would have to have a local ordinance that would allow you to detonate it at that time. There are still some exemptions on the New Year's holiday and also July 3rd and 4th. The time limit is stretched out until midnight. Well, July 1st it's until 1 a.m. We'll give you a little bit of time to bring into in the new year, but July 4th holiday, it's going to be up until midnight. So those were some of the major changes. We had some other public safety proximity changes and things like that in the bill. But now with this bill, the quality of life for your residents in your area should be a little bit better, and also some public safety issues have been addressed. Now we're going to move on to the next public safety bill that we're going to address, and I call it the Body Camera Affordability Bill. This is House Bill 976. This bill allows local law enforcement agencies to store data on, let me rewind. This bill, current law, allows you to keep or requires you to keep arrest videos for 5 years. This bill changes that. A lot of law enforcement agencies were mentioning that they could not afford to keep the videos for 5 years. So what we did is we tried to figure out what's the best way to handle this situation. We came up with a 30-month time period. So as of right now, videos for arrests, uses of force, and any video that captures traffic accidents, you would have to keep for 30 months. This cuts that time frame in half, but also covers every single anti-litem period to cover your city from any type of civil actions. Any other videos that don't include the 3 aforementioned points would have to be kept for 180 days. We feel that this is a great bill that will not only protect our law enforcement agencies, but protect the people that they're sworn to protect as well.
Thanks, Justin. A lot of hard work going into public safety legislation. Also, a good segue on public safety is legislation related to firefighters. This was a disappointment to us. House Bill 216 was legislation that passed and sent to the governor's office that allows firefighters to bring a workers' comp claim for an ordinary disease of life, that disease being cancer, by showing with a preponderance of evidence that it was likely that the cancer occurred as part of their job duties. This is an ordinary disease of life, cancer. It's an emotional issue, but we basically, in doing the research for this, the American Cancer Society shows that nearly half of all males in their lifetime will develop cancer, and a preponderance standard in order to get workers' comp benefits for firefighters is such a low standard that we've got concerns that it will raise worker comp rates for city and county governments across the state. House Bill 216, should Governor Deal sign the legislation, we anticipate that workers' comp rates for city and county governments will go up substantially throughout the state. GMA has joined with our counterparts at the Association of County Commissioners in asking that Governor Deal consider vetoing House Bill 216 because of the high costs of compensation for this ordinary disease of life through workers' comp. And a number of city officials have also asked Governor Deal to veto this legislation. And the governor has got until the end of the first week of May to make that decision. So if you want to know more about a lot of the other bills that we dealt with during the past session, I'd encourage you to go to this link and please download this webinar. This link will show you all the major active bills that GMA's legislative team was working and show you the status at the end of the session. It's comprehensive. We tried to highlight just the bills that we know are of interest to our city governments. It's only 8 pages, so I'd encourage you to take a look at it. The next part of this process is the listening session, but before I move forward on that, I want to make sure that for those of you who know, from this process moving forward and also right now, if you've got questions about bills specifically that happened this legislative session, or if you have suggestions as we move through this next step, the virtual listening session, we want you to use the box on your screen to type in the questions or the suggestions that we have that we'll move through on the virtual listening session. So with that, we want your feedback. The virtual listening session is essentially the last point of contact in the last part of the first part of GMA's policy process. That's basically when our legislative team goes out around the state to face-to-face meetings, we call them listening sessions, and we hear feedback about what city officials need from their legislators at the Gold Dome. This is the last one of all of those listening sessions that we've had across the state, and we want your feedback. As I said, when these quick 6 questions are presented to you, please give us feedback now or send us individual emails with your feedback and suggestions for what we should bring to the Gold Dome next legislative session. What we do with these suggestions is bring them to the GMA Legislative Policy Council, which meets next week, to review these suggestions that were given to us all over the state and decide how our policy recommendations need to be presented and tweaked for the June convention through the policy committee process. These 6 questions are also corresponding to the 6 policy committees that we've got through GMA. So first, I'd like to kick the first one off to Justin, since this is his policy area.
Thank you, Tom. We're trying to solicit some feedback from you all, so I'm going to just ask you a brief public safety question. If you could ask your legislators for one thing to help you with public safety in your city, what would that be?
So we're going to pause for a minute and you can type out any answers you might have in the question and answer box and we will read them aloud to the group. Don't be shy.
I need one person to at least volunteer to ask a question so that we don't feel bad.
Or we can move on. Yes. Well, let's move on. And as I said, for those of you who do want to submit questions or submit ideas, please do so during this webinar or individually to us with links that are provided through the webinar if you download it. The next question, Catherine can handle.
So GMA would love to hear about what is the biggest environmental challenge facing your city, and is there anything your legislator could do to help solve it?
The next question that we have relates to economic and community development. If you could suggest one economic or community development idea, we'd like to hear that, get that suggestion to us.
Terry Anilowitz mentioned that she would like to have funded mandates, so also no unfunded mandates. I see for public safety, we've got from someone we have easier access to safe sidewalks for children. We've got funding for complete streets, assistance to identify resources for smaller communities, grants, and wetlands delineation controls in terms of the previous question of environment, what you would ask for help for the environment.
Very good feedback. Thank you all. And sorry for our technical problem, but let's continue. And please continue to submit suggestions as we go through this. The next question relates to city operations, and Justin will cover that.
So we would like to know, what is the biggest challenge facing your city's operations, and what could your legislator do to help?
I would suggest this is sort of a general municipal government operations catch-all. Anything you think would help with your city government operations, please submit some suggestions.
And I believe on the previous question in terms of help with economic development, we also got another answer about funding for technical college for Camden County.
Very good. Catherine, do you want to tackle the next question?
Sure. The next question we have is, if your legislator offered to help your city with issues concerning revenue and finance, what would you ask him or her to do?
We are fortunate to have people from the city of Atlanta on the call. And as many of you know, the city of Atlanta is the only city in the state that has a municipal option sales tax. And for that, they're the envy of many communities. We've heard that municipal option sales tax is something that a lot of city governments would love the opportunity to ask their voters to approve. But ideas like that, if you've got suggestions, please submit them now or as a follow-up email.
So we got some feedback to streamline the reporting process. And
if you could give us clarification on what you mean by streamlining the reporting the reporting, please let us know. I'm not quite sure I understand
which process.
Yeah, which process you're referring to. Now let me go to the next policy area, but keep the suggestions coming. After the passage last year of House Bill 170, transportation needs are starting to be met at the state level, but we would like to still see if you've got concerns about how the state partners with you all at the local level in delivering projects that are of importance to your citizens. So any transportation suggestions that you have, we really appreciate it.
And if you feel like you don't have time to type your answers into the questions now, again, there's a document to the right where you can download all of our contact information, and you can email any of us, and we will take that feedback back to the Legislative Policy Council.
And these are six broad policy areas. As I said, corresponding with the six broad policy areas that our GMA committees deal with. We have them broad on purpose. Basically, we want to catch any information, any ideas that you all have under those six broad areas. So if you, as Catherine said, if you don't have time to or don't have some ideas right off the top of your head, talk with your peers at the council, submit them to us, and we will put them on the list for the Legislative Policy Council meeting next week.
And we got some feedback on the streamline the reporting process, and that there are a lot of different surveys that have to be completed at different times, which takes a lot of time versus having one streamlined report. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Yes.
And then another one from Camden County, that y'all need a completely redesigned exit 1 on Interstate 95 for safety reasons. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, as GMA's legislative team has traveled the state the month of April, for those of you on the interstates, particularly in the metro Atlanta area, they've got these message boards, and it seems like every day as we travel the streets, the number of fatalities on Georgia's roads increases by 5 or 6 a day. It's shocking, but public safety is a major component of transportation, and we appreciate the comment. Any other suggestions or comments? As I said, please feel free to submit ideas and suggestions. We tried to keep this to 30 minutes or less, understanding the time constraints that you all have as city council people and business people across the state. But we certainly appreciate the engagement that you all have as city officials working with GMA to achieve success at the state capitol. This is the first step in our policy process. But we hope to see you at convention, where the results and ideas that you've generated here will be considered by the policy committees for final adoption at the GMA convention. I think we've got another couple of comments in.
A little bit more feedback. That limited access to public transportation opts us to provide access to employment centers, that you need more access to public transportation, and then also that for economic development, that help with the spaceport would be good.
Very good.
Very exciting.
Well, as I said, please email us follow-up emails if you didn't get a chance to submit this morning, but we certainly appreciate all the help that you give us in making our advocacy efforts a success at the state capitol. Feel free to don't hesitate to call us if we can help you in any way. And with that, thanks again for taking your time to be with us this morning at the Statewide Virtual Listening Session.